Morning guys. Thank you for joining us today. As Jag's explained, we'll be going through how to understand your customers in depth to achieve post-lockdown growth. So just before we do get started, I'm just going to run through a little bit of housekeeping. So you will be muted throughout the webinar unless asked to participate. And there will be time for live questions at the end. So throughout the webinar, as you think of them, please enter them into the chat function. And Jag and Charlotte will be keeping an eye on those, and then we'll select a couple of them to discuss at the end. If we don't get around to answering all of those questions, we will then follow them up in emails and on social media as well. So at some point they will be answered, if not today. When we do share our screen to present, you can make it bigger or smaller by moving the slider left and right on desktop devices. And the webinar will be recorded for use on our website. So if you're not happy with your image being shown, then please keep your camera off, and that's absolutely fine. So 44% of B2B marketers use buyer personas, creating mix of opportunity and competition. So if you're not using them, then you could be missing you are missing a trick, basically. So before we begin, I'd like you just to pop in the chat function what you are hoping to learn from the webinar, if you can share that with us, and then we will revisit these at the end. So just give you a couple of seconds to pop them in, and then Jag or Charlotte can give me a nod to let me know when to continue, if people want to pop them in.
No, I don't think anybody wants to learn anything.
Okay, that's fine, no worries. Well, hopefully that's because when we've put out the promotional information, you want to learn what we're telling you you're going to, fingers crossed. So that is the importance of audience buyer personas, what they are and why you need them, 5 reasons why they might fail, where to start and what to include, and some recommended resources to hopefully help make your life a little bit easier. So just a bit of background about myself. I have 16 years of experience in recruiting, selling and marketing across the healthcare, education, retail and industrial sectors. So quite a varied CV. I have previously been trained by LinkedIn's own sales team, so I have a high knowledge when it comes to LinkedIn. And I am responsible for social media strategy here at Xpand. Bit about the company. We are based in Saltaire. We're a full service digital marketing agency, so we follow the full spectrum. Established in 2007, so we've been doing 14 years, celebrating our birthday very soon, so excited about that. And we use a process model called Solar 7. So as you can see, we work to this basis when working with clients, and there are 7 stages to the model, beginning with discovery, then working through strategy, and then covering all of the bits in the middle, where we start with the heart being the brand and content, and then sending them out into the wider channels that are covered across marketing. We then look at stage review and measure. Of course, we need to do that to check that things that we've put in place are working. And then, of course, at the end, the return on investment. So that model is something that we work to within our business and share with our clients. So in terms of the importance of audience buyer personas, we're going to look at that first. So it's simple really to start with what one is. So social media today, if you don't know who they are, they're worth a follow. They're very good in terms of getting social media news out and updates about what's going on. So they're a good one to keep an eye on. But they define a buyer persona is a research-based profile that depicts a target customer. Buyer personas describe who your ideal customers are, what their days are like, the challenges they face, and how they make decisions. So it sounds pretty simple the way that they put that. We just go into a little bit more detail where we add, it's an in-depth description of someone who reflects your target audience. So it's not a real customer, it's a fictional person, but it represents the characteristics of your best potential customers. So, you know, when you're looking at who your business is marketing to, who is that ideal person who you want to reach through any of your marketing messaging, and not just marketing, to be fair. They are important because they act as a framework. So they should be central to any of your efforts as a business, not just in marketing. They should be used throughout sales, and also if you're looking to develop new products, things like that. These people should be at the forefront of your mind. So we're not just talking about, you know, putting out a social media post thinking about this person, or writing your website. There's also, you know, an element of any kind of sales methods that you use and things like that as well. These will help you define which ones are going to work best. So they will also help you identify and prioritize changes to your offering based on what your customers need, because as we're going to go into later, they're not stagnant, they do change. You can use them to build effective strategies and facilitate the buying process. So as I've said, you know, for your sales department, one thing that works for one might not work for another. So, you know, knowing these buyer personas, sending them an email might be better than actually trying to do a telephone call to them. So they can help with things like that too. But will also help your sales team actually understand and build a rapport with these potential customers. If your sales team know what to expect and what this person might have challenges with, they can adapt their pitch to suit that too, just the same way as we can with marketing. Okay. So using marketing personas made websites 2 to 5 times more effective and easier to use by targeted users. And that comes from HubSpot, who are recognised. I'm sure everybody will have heard and read HubSpot's blogs and articles. That they are very useful, another good resource there to look at. But you know, they are very prominent when it comes to discussing the personas and how you can adapt them. So there are reasons, obviously, as to why these fail. We're going to run through 5 of those reasons now. But what I'd like you to do, if you dare, if any of these that we run through you are actually guilty of currently doing or have done in the past, then please feel free to own up and type guilty in the chat as we go along. And then guys, as if anybody does, then just give me a nod, because I can't see the chat. So the guys, Jag and Charlotte, will alert me to that. And we may ask you to just share that if relevant. Okay, so the first reason, you don't think they need to be documented because they're already in your head. So as a business manager, are you guilty of, I know our persona, I know who they are, they're in my head, it's all right. Anybody willing to say that they're guilty of that? If not, don't worry, it's fine. But a lot of people actually do that. We come across it quite a bit when we're working with clients, where they will say, well, yeah, we know that we're targeting this person, and yeah, our sales team get that. And it's like, well, if they're in your head, how do you expect them to know? Unless they're psychic, maybe, and you're good at recruiting.
I've had one person own up.
Have we? Right, okay, that's good. Thank you for owning up and admitting. Hopefully we will help you understand the reasons for why you need to get them documented going forward. Number 2, they aren't actively used by everyone in the business. So for example, you may have a slight kind of idea of them. They may be documented somewhere, but not everybody in the team is aware of who they are. So the example there, your website copy still talks about what you do, not what your customer actually needs. So you've created this persona as a manager or as a management team, but you've not actually filtered it out to departments so that they know when they're creating their content or doing their sales calls, that this is the person that they are writing or talking to going forward. So and we see that a lot, where, you know, they will say, yes, I've got the persona, and it's like, right, so if we went into your business and we asked one of your call handlers or your sales team who their persona is, who they are, who their ideal customer is, would they then turn around and tell me that it was Bob or whatever you've decided to call him? Probably not. And a lot of them will actually admit it and say, no, I don't think they would. So
we've got the same person, Jen, who said not guilty of this one.
All right, cool. Well, that's good. That's good to know. Okay. You don't ask all your team for their input. So this is a big one, really. We find this quite a bit in terms of, you'll sit down and as a management team, you'll create this persona and you'll discuss who you believe is the ideal customer. And there are ways that you can pull that, and obviously you will have some of that detail in terms of, your analytics and things like that. But when was the last time that you actually went out on a sales visit or actually made a sales call or actually met up with a client and had that one-to-one conversation with them? It might not be as recent as you think, and your sales team or your customer care team, whatever it is, your marketing team, they are in direct contact with those people every day. So it is so important that they have an input in this, because actually they may have some really credible information that you're missing from that persona. So it's really important to do that. Did anybody admit to not doing that one?
Yep, we've had two people.
Okay, so hopefully so far you've already learned some little snippets there of stuff to do. And we've not even got to the big bits yet. This one is debatable and it can be argued, but you only have one. Usually, unless you are a really boutique business, you will have more than one. Even in B2B businesses, usually there is more than one type of client that you are trying to target or attract. You may also, as well, and a big one that people do miss here, is have a persona for your employee recruitment too. So you should never just have one, really, unless you're quite happy being a one-person business. You don't want to recruit anybody else and you're just targeting that one little lady or down the street because you're selling boutique hats or something. And that's
on that one.
We've had what?
One guilty on that one as well.
Right. Okay. So already you can see that you should have at least two, because you should have at least one audience, one customer person, but you should also maybe have one for your recruitment too. Who is your ideal employee, as well as who your ideal customer is too. It's very rare that you would just be targeting one industry as well. So we're gonna later in the webinar, we are going to show you an example of one. But within like our business, within marketing, there's more than one industry that we will work with. So obviously that means that there's more than one persona that we'll look at too. So those people are going to have different kind of, they're going to have different challenges within their lives, whether they're CEOs of businesses or whether they are sales managers. They're going to be different people. So you need different personas. Okay. And the biggest one, and we're probably all guilty of this, maybe not so much us now because I drill it into us all, but revisiting them. People, once you've got them, it's not enough to just be like, right, tick in the box, we've got our personas, happy days, let's just trot along, carry on doing them, let's target these 3 people and right, we're there. We're in a global pandemic. People have changed. Whether we like to admit it or not, we have all had some kind of impact. This COVID has had impact on every single person's life, whether that's adapted the way that you now work because you've been forced to work from home more. It might have changed how you now take on information. Your customers are going to feel that too. And there's going to be scenarios where how they absorb information has completely changed as well. One example that I can give you there was I was listening to a trend update for 2021. One of the companies does it every year. And they were saying, to consider the fact that when we were put in lockdown, we were unable to shop like we would normally. So e-commerce has grown massively because there's been a shift in the generational stages. We've seen younger, lower down, teaching their grandparents how they can use Facebook to buy things that they would normally go to a shop and buy. So considering things like that when you're revisiting your audience is really important. Are they likely to still actually be going to the shop? You know, things have opened up a bit more now, and we can pop to the White Rose or whatever, which we couldn't before. But actually, how many of your customers want to do that now? How many are now comfortable actually just buying on social media? How many more will just, you know, sit and use their iPhones to buy stuff rather than risk going to the shop? People have changed, so I can't highlight and stress this one enough, that you should be revisiting them at least every quarter. Whenever you sit down really to do your meetings, your big monthly, big quarterly meetings, this should be something that you're revisiting, or that your marketing team are revisiting on a regular basis, and then fielding out to the rest of your teams. It's really important. Okay. So where do you start? What do you include? So I appreciate that some of you may already have personas, but hopefully even within this next section, we'll give you some pointers as to how you may be able to improve them, or at least revisit them. So do your research. So in terms of looking into the kind of data as well, a lot of your website and social media analytics will give you this kind of information. Facebook Insights is great. They have within your business tool, there is an audience section in there that will give you some ideas of the times that they're online, and the content that they're engaging with, things like that. LinkedIn has an element of that as well. But your Google Analytics, they're good as well in terms of looking at your audience insights and things like that. So these are all tools that you will have at your disposal, and you can actually use. But even things like looking at your actual data that you've got in the business, you know these people, you work with them. What do they, how do they work? What are their kind of trends? You know, when do you have trends in your business that actually business goes up at this time of year? We know that that's in that industry, that's busier times. So maybe we start, you know, we look at when that might lead to that person being more stressed because this happens at this time of year within our industry. You know, things like that can have an impact on the kind of message that you would then put out. So for example, if you're working within education and you know exams are coming out, you're not going to start posting out messages that talk about something completely irrelevant to that head teacher, because right now their world is revolving around that success of those results. So they're going to be one hell of a stressed person, and just hitting them with a lot of irrelevant marketing is really not going to help the situation. So having a persona in mind, but peaks and troughs of how their lives are impacted by their work, it's really important too. And your data will potentially help you to identify that. Also, a big one that people always miss out on is actually interviewing your current clients and your current customers. So the last point we talked about revisiting them and the global pandemic. So how do we know? Well, get on the phone and just ask some of your key clients, how's it changed for them? How's it impacted them? Have they changed how they take on information? Have they been using social a bit more? You know, use them and ask them, send them surveys, or, you know, just have that touch base with them. Set that off as a team thing to do. Get the team, do a little day, maybe have a little sales day where it's like, right, whoever can get the most information from their clients can have a bottle of wine or something like that, you know, incentivize it. But at the same time, it's giving your customers a little bit of credibility as well, because they know it, you know, they're doing it. And if you speak to John at whatever company and he tells you that actually, yeah, I have been using Facebook a bit more, and you're not using Facebook as a business, then that's something that maybe you need to think about. Using social media, so it's a little bit of a sneaky tool, but we use it. In LinkedIn, there's the search bar at the top. You can use that to just get an idea of your marketing, of your persona. So for example, if we're working with a client who, you know, might be looking for mediation or something like that, then we could do a little search in there for the kind of job title that he might be targeting, and then nosy at the people's profiles just to like see the kind of things that they're talking about in their profile, the kind of courses that they may have done. You know, there might be a few little hooks in there that we can then use when we're developing the persona for the marketing messages, but also seeing like their pain points as well. So, you know, there could be all sorts in there, and they are really useful as well, because it'll also tell you whether your target persona is actually on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever. And you'll know then that actually that's a bit of research in terms of where you're going to be putting that message out to. So in terms of that as well, there is a setting, if you're worried about all these people seeing that you're nosing at the profile, you can change your LinkedIn to privacy settings. But if they're a target audience anyway, do you want them not to see you? Because actually, if they see that you've looked at their profile, they'll look at yours, and maybe that will develop a connection, and ideally that's what you want. So yeah, so there, in terms of research, some things to consider there. Once you've got the research, you can then create the profile. So there's been a bit of recently I've seen a bit of kind of debate on LinkedIn regarding whether to give a persona a name or not. We personally feel that you should, because then it gives it more of an accountability if you can then refer to that person in everything that you do across the business. If everybody is tuned into the fact that when we do X, Y, Z, it's for Frank or Rita or whatever, you know, it's becomes kind of embedded within your business then that is why, you know. So even to the point, like as a manager, you might actually go to your marketing team and go, well, does that message work for Frank? Does that message work for, and they become a real person, and that's not a bad thing. In, you know, they are fictional, but if you believe that that person is sat at the end of that screen or that telephone, then your marketing efforts will hopefully increase, because you are literally getting into their heads. Find a photo that best portrays them. Again, just gives them a personality, gives a bit more accountability to the team. Think about the key identifiers. So the kind of things about who they are. Are they a calm person? Are they intelligent? Are they disorganized? You know, think about the kind of people who you're working with now and what their traits are. What makes them who they are in work or in the personal life? So are they a parent? Are they, you know, do they like to learn? Do they, you know, there's all sorts of different things that will fall into that category. What are their goals in life? So, you know, thinking about somebody who may have come in as a business manager within a certain environment. One of their goals will probably be finance, and to keep that business's finances going right. But you can also think about what their personal goals might be as well. So it doesn't just limit to that. What are the primary challenges and pain points? So what's frustrating them, what's stopping them? I can guarantee that time will probably come in there. It's usually in every single one that we do. It's always top of the list. Everybody's short of time. Where might they go for information? So again, this is where, you know, that research with your current clients would be really useful, because you're actually asking them, you know, do you go to blog sites? Do you read blogs? Do you use social media? Which social media platforms do you use? Do you read email? You know, is it networking? Where do they get it from? You know, and you can take a bit of a guess at that. You can do your research in terms of, like I've said, doing the searches on LinkedIn and finding out how many people are on there. But, you know, ultimately actually asking your customers is going to be the best bit there, because if you know that they're there, then it's likely that others are going to be there too that fit their kind of same level of persona. And who are their influencers? So this is, people always say to me, well, why does that matter? But actually, if you know who their influencers are, then the type of content you put out there could actually be different too. So for example, if they find someone like Richard Branson inspiring, and that's something that's regularly mentioned, then maybe you would share some curated content that's from Richard Branson. You know, it's just little things like that. But also as well, if there's so if it's like a mum blogger, and you're like, you know, you're trying, your ideal customer is a mum, a parent, and their influencer is someone who is a mummy blogger who's a nano influencer. So what we mean by that is someone who's not like famous, but actually has a good credible Instagram account, has lots of followers and puts good content out there. Then that might be that you then go, right, well, we know that that person, our customer, Sam, is influenced by this person. So let's approach them, see whether they'll do a bit of work with us. That does depend completely on your industry. And obviously that's a whole other webinar, but you know, that's why that information is there. And then what do you do with it all? Create a PDF document and share it with the whole team. So don't just create the document and put it in a drawer or on a file somewhere in your team drive or something like that. Send an email and ask them all to actually, you know, say that they've seen it and understood it. We all know that that does not work. How many of us would actually say, yeah, I pretended I'd read that email? You know, yeah, I said I'd read it. Did I actually read it? Probably not. So it's really, really important to actually set aside some time where you sit down with everyone in the team, whether that's individual teams or whether you just call everybody in and you get everyone in your boardroom and you talk about it, you work through it, you ask them for feedback. Is this person right? Is this who you're targeting on a day-to-day basis?
We've had a confession to that as well.
Have we? Well, to be fair, I confess to that. I have definitely done that. Not to you, Jack, but in the past, definitely have gone, yes, I've read it. You know, we're busy people, all of us are. So, but yeah, getting them involved and actually, you know, that is also going to help with your employee advocacy, you know, and engagement, making them feel good, like their opinion matters. If they're all on board as well, and you're all moving forward, pushing with the same personas, you're all on the same hymn sheet, you all know what you're doing, and they all know that that target customer, whatever you've called them, is the focus, then how much easier is it going to be for everyone in your business to be aligned? So thinking about that too. We all know about the little divide that goes on between sales and marketing teams. Something like this could just make that little thing, you know, a lot easier. So, and like we've said, use it as a working document, revisit it, keep it as something at the forefront. Without that persona, you can't even begin your Solar 7 process. You can't even kind of look, you could do the discovery, you have the persona, but if you don't have that, then you're just kind of stabbing in the dark, really. You're just guessing where your customer is. You're just guessing what your customer wants. And that's not good enough. It's a wasted effort. We all have busy days and we all need to do stuff. So why not be smarter about how you're doing it and how you're targeting, and having this documented persona that's shared with everyone will stop that and just bring it all together. So embedding it in your content creation strategy is really important as well. So this is our example that we've put together. So you can see here that Martin is a business owner. We've put in there a bit of background about Martin. So that is literally, you can go into as much detail as you want there or not. That is basically your like emotive part of getting into Martin's head. So, you know, we're saying that he's a proud owner of an SME organisation. He's worked his whole life to get to where he is now. He's overprotective of his business. Of course he is, you know, he's worked really hard on it. He's married, he's got 2 young children, but now because he's got those and he's got his business, he's struggling to keep that work-life balance and keeping his business on a positive trajectory. His protective nature has prohibited him from wanting any external help, but now he knows that if he doesn't get it, he's gonna suffer, both his family and his business life. So, you know, he's at risk of burnout basically, and you can potentially dig more deeper into what is going on with Martin so that you can then change your marketing to kind of suit him, and not just your marketing, everything. So he's identified as hardworking, protective over the business he's built, loves the time he gets to spend with his family. He is a family man, and it's that's what's affecting him. He's got that balance, that inner fight. He enjoys playing golf on a weekend with his friends to wind down, and he spends a great deal of his time out networking. So yeah, we've said it once, twice, a million times. He's busy. He's, you know, he's restricted on his time, and he's trying to be a lot of things. His goals are to be able to send his children off to university. Isn't that us all? To raise his children right, to win an industry award, and to be recognised within the industry. So he wants to be a thought leader. He wants to be someone who people know. And he wants to get to a point where he can invest in property. So he's got ambition still as well. His primary challenge is that he needs a work-life balance to solve his guilt with missing out on his children's early years. And if any of you are parents, I think we all suffer with that a little bit. We all have that guilt of going back and being in work and missing first steps and stuff like that. So how can we you know, combat that? And learning to take a back seat in some cases. His sources of information. So the news, TV, radio, LinkedIn blogs, articles, posts, networking events, uses Twitter, likes to read Business Insider, keeping up with relevant trends within his business through online articles. The kind of topics that he would potentially be interested in as well. So actually thinking about not just where they read the information, but what the information that they would like to read is too. So business and consumer trends, marketing for beginners, parenting blogs, property investment, because we know that's something that he might like to do. And then influencers would be people like Bill Gates and Richard Branson. So again, for content, you know, curated, which when we say curated, we mean stuff that other people have written that we can then use and share within our social media channels as well. So what does this tell us? In fact, before I get there, over on the right, I always miss that bit out. It's most important, really. Over on the right is the kind of things that Martin might say, and these are really important because they help you really get into that person's head and mindset. So these might be things that customers have said to you in the past, that some of your big clients have actually said when they've come to you. They've used phrases where they've said, you know, trust and integrity are the values I look for when working with people, or I need a company that understand the work I've put in and genuinely want to help me. I'm looking for a partnership. Things like this will help you to then phrase how you're putting that message out to attract new Martins, or, you know, new whoever they are. There's then the demographics over on the right hand side. Now, at this point, I am going to point out, because it's something that I personally feel quite strongly about. B2B and B2C, when it comes to audience personas, should be no different. At the end of the day, you are selling to a human being. So I like to phrase it as H to H. You are human selling to human. At the end of the day, the person who you are talking to and marketing to still has a decision to make as a person as well as for the business. So they're not robots. There's still a human element in that decision too. We've seen it in the past where a sales manager, they'll get pitched to by different people, And it'll be so close that actually they'll go with the person who they believed is someone they can trust and work with as well. And that's them, that's down to them and their personality reflecting on how they get on with you. So, you know, you might actually be charging £10 more than the other business, but actually because you've sold to them as a person and you've made that emotive connection with them as well, they choose you over that other person. So that's really important to consider when you're thinking about these people as well. Okay, so what does all of this tell us? What can X, the company, do to help Martin? And what is the message? So down here, this is where we just summarize everything and then actually write an example of the type of message we might put out on social media, we might write on our website, the kind of things that he would want to read. So Martin is very protective of the company he has worked so hard to build, which is only natural. X needs to reassure him that they want to work with him to generate the results he desires and demonstrate the positive impact this will have on his work-life balance. So the kind of example we might say is, we get that you need reassurance from any partnership, as we do too. We're serious about your success, and that's why we deliver you real, tangible results that support your business growth. Our clients trust us with their bigger picture. You can too. And then you might include some examples of some client testimonials in there as well. So that's our overview of an example for you. Okay, so Marketing Sherpa, who are a research agency, their case study found that buyer personas added the following value, and I think you'll agree that these are quite shocking really when you read them, like 900% increase in the length of visit. So a huge increase in how long these people were actually spending on the website when the content was written towards that persona rather than the we. It was about you, we get your pain points, we understand that you need X, Y, Z. And that increased it by 900%, how long they stayed. There's a 171% increase in marketing generated revenue. So the marketing message being aimed at that person had a huge impact on their revenue. 111% increase in email open rates. So the email being targeted towards that person meant that people were actually opening it. And 100% increase in the number of pages visited, which makes sense when you're talking about the length of visit increasing as well. So they're obviously going to go and look at more things and read more pages. So just some food for thought there. I thought that was quite interesting. Okay, resources wise. So we use a number of resources, and I've mentioned a few as we've been going along, but Crystal's really useful because what this does is it uses disc analysis, which, whether you've heard of it or not, is in relates to kind of like personality traits and things. But Crystal's free. It has a tool that when you use it, you can apply it to LinkedIn, and it'll give you, it's really cool actually, it gives you like little examples of the type of questions that you might ask that person. So you could actually run this. I did this, I tested it on Jag. And I was like, oh my God, it is. Like, it tells you like what kind of marketing they might respond to, what message, how to talk to them, you know, whether to be straight up and just stick to the facts or whether to fluff. It's really quite interesting. So I recommend that you go and have a play with that. Pulsar is a paid functionality. It's an audience insights platform, audience intelligence, they call it. And basically it just gives you a wealth of information about the type of audience that you might be going for. It will tell you all sorts of different information and insights on their habits and things like that. It also does social listening, which is really important as well. Within social media is actually listening to, well, within anything, it's not just social media, listening to what your customer's saying and being there with the answers before they even ask them. So it's useful for that. There are a load of other social listening tools and in terms of paid and ones that you can do yourself. But you can check out our blog, and there's things like that on there that'll help with that. And we mentioned them earlier, Google Analytics. So a lot of people forget about that one, but actually it's a really useful tool in terms of looking at when people are on your website and things like that. So you can kind of tailor the times that you know that they're using the website. So why not put your content on social media around those times too? Because it's likely if they're on your website, they're going to be on social, or at least have it up in the background. So there is another tool as well. But before we reveal it, Charlotte's gonna pop a link into the chat now for our survey. We'd really appreciate it if you would just pop that in. There's only 3 or 4 questions, I think.
It's 3 questions. If you could just quickly fill it in now, we'll give you about 10 seconds. 3 questions. Just let us know if you can reply honestly on how you think the webinar's gone and your feedback on it. It's what helps us improve and just keep providing good content for you guys. So we'll just give you 10 seconds just to fill them in, and then when you have, if you could just put done in the chat so we know we can move forward and provide you with this final tool.
And I've prepared some music for this. Oh, we could just have a dance break now. A little bit of elevator music. Nobody's dancing with me, I'm on my own. A bit of jazz in there as well. I wonder which elevator this music's in. It's not in any of the ones I go in.
Right, so we've got a few people. Any more? Yeah, oh, we've got a few more, yeah. Okay, we'll give it a few more seconds of the music and then we'll move on.
That busting some moves. I can't believe you're making me do this on my own.
I'm not a dancer.
Chair dancing. Come on, Charlotte.
Right, okay, so it looks like we've had a few people fill it in. So yeah, okay, brilliant.
Move along then. So we have actually created a free download. So what you saw earlier, our example of Martin, there is one on our website that we will share for free, and Charlotte's going to pop that link in as well for you. So you can go to that and it'll provide you with the tool to be able to create your own, and it comes complete with guidance notes as well. So hopefully that will help. And then just to recap, you should now know the importance of audience buyer personas, what they are and why you need them, the 5 reasons why they might fail, where to start and what to include, and some recommended resources to make life a little easier. So at the beginning, I did ask you all to put down what you hope to learn, even though you didn't actually put anything. Do you feel that you have learned what you hope to learn? If you could just drop us a little yes in there. Not that obviously if you didn't, but hopefully you did. And then what we're going to do next is move on to some questions. So hopefully there'll have been some throughout in the chat. So I don't know whether Charlotte, you want to, is there any?
Yeah, so if anyone's got any questions, feel free. You can just unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can type it into the chat.
Left time for questions.
Yeah. Don't think there are any questions, but one thing we come across, we've been focusing on this. Oh, right, okay, yeah, we have a question from Jen. Any tips for getting into your persona's head if you are very different to them?
Yeah, this is a really difficult one because we've been talking a lot about this recently, haven't we, Jack? And we do find that having a bit of an empathetic background, like a personality trait, can make this aspect a lot easier. the kind of thing that I do if I'm creating one is I try and imagine somebody I know that is in that seat. So for example, we've done one recently for apprentice, and I was like, oh my God, I've never been an apprentice. But I basically just pretended to be my brother as I was like completing it. So there will always be someone that you know, whether they're family, friends, or a previous colleague, that you can potentially put that hat on and become that person. If that helps.
I think a good way to look at it as well is, obviously you might be in a scenario where you want to target a completely new customer that you've never worked with before. And I suppose that's more in reference to the kind of thing you were talking about, Danny. But if you obviously if you have a running business and you've got a certain type of customer, it's maybe think about the traits that your existing customers have, or the ideal customers that you work with, even if it's only a small percentage of, right, these are the great people we like to work with, what are their traits? Don't base it 100% around them, but the kind of things that they might do. A further step into that might be one of the points that Danny made earlier on is, speaking to your customers and interviewing them, or maybe taking it a step further and thinking, who is that ideal person, even if you don't know who they are. I'm sorry, if you've never met this person before, if you search them on LinkedIn and you meet them at a networking event, it's about just kind of understanding what it is that's important to them, and just very honestly asking the question. If you don't ask, you don't get. And I think it involves, to that extent, getting into someone's head, it can be a difficult thing. So I think kind of researching if it's a person that you've never worked with before, just ask the question. You never know, there are people, if we're all in business where everyone's always looking to help each other.
There's a lot of research involved. I mean, Google can be great as well, just Googling like that target customer and finding out, what does this person do? What does a X do? Google can be a great tool for just giving you some ideas.
So we've got another question. So hopefully that answers that, Jen. Okay, so you said thank you. Claire's asked the question, would you create different personas around sector targeting and product targeting?
I would. I personally would, because I think you have to, like I mentioned with the education sector, different things are happening in those sectors that you will need to be reactive to for that persona. So like I mentioned with the head teacher, if exams are coming up, that's going to be kind of, you're going to approach that person differently to how you would approach maybe someone not in that sector. So yeah, it all to do with trends and things that are going on, I would say.
Yeah, and I think specifically, with product, I mean, the process is the same. I think maybe, I'm not sure if this is a question you're asking, Claire, but sector targeting, product targeting, is it the difference between service and product? I think the framework is still the same, and the kind of things that we've outlined, but obviously the way that you engage with a product is different to the way that you engage with a service. So it's taking a bit of a different mindset and just thinking about what your thought pattern might be when it comes to actually buying a product, because there might be a lot less human engagement in something like that if you're buying online or via Amazon or eBay or
yeah, and that's where the revisiting comes in as well. A lot of businesses will use, if they're looking to launch a new product, then revisiting your persona and is this the persona that we still want to target for this product? Is this product right for this persona? There's a lot of analysis involved in it as well.
Great. Okay, so any other questions at all? I don't think we have any other questions. Okay. No problem. So, well, thank you guys for coming along today. I hope you enjoyed it. Apologies to those of you we had a few technical issues and a few of you couldn't get in, but obviously you made it here. There will be a recording. We have recorded this, so we will be putting it on our website and putting some notes on there. So if you keep an eye out for that, then you can kind of recap any of the notes on that side of things. We will also be running, I mean, this is just kind of the first of a few events that we're going to be running throughout the year. So a few examples of the kind of thing we're going to be doing. The next one's going to be about Google Analytics, designing a website based on your data and just understanding Google Analytics a little bit more. It's a really powerful tool. Another one is going to be around social media best practices. Another one is going to be around PR and how it wraps around your marketing strategy. So there are a few examples. So if you watch out for these, we're going to be releasing these over the next few months. And yeah, if you enjoyed today and you found it useful, then yeah, hopefully please do come along to that. And yeah, thank you for coming, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.